New York Fashion Week, or as I like to call it, office wear for everybody. Welcome back to the channel, guys. It's Tomas sharing all my thoughts on fashion, lifestyle, and anything else that comes to mind. I'm here every single Wednesday with some surprise uploads on Sundays, so make sure you turn on the bell so you're notified and you don't miss a single video. Okay, let's talk about the lighting. I don't know if it's giving a little bit of like Greenwich by the Fire, Connecticut vibes, but there is a huge snowstorm where I live, and like the last 2 days, like 40 centimeters of snow. It's absolutely insane. I've been completely disoriented and I haven't really felt like leaving the house. It's just been like super depressing. Depressed levels like on max, you guys. Like it's like not even funny at this point. I need like a beach. And I like hate beach vacations, but at this point, like I'll take anything. Today I come to you with my review and I guess consultancy on New York Fashion Week. We just started Fashion Month and it is now fall 2025 season. As you guys know, I jot down my notes for the most important shows and also most of the shows that had enough, I guess, like content that I want to talk about. Previously, I used to like kind of talk about every show, but then I felt like it wasn't really productive. So moving forward, I'm just gonna pick the most notable. Doesn't necessarily mean that they were good, but then also the shows that I just really, really loved. I'd rather talk about stuff that I love more than stuff that I didn't love. There will be one or two shows that I was like, but most of it will be stuff that I liked. We need to get right into it because there's absolutely no time to waste. Before I get into it, make sure you guys are liking and subscribing to the channel. Please give me a like. It actually helps me a lot. And let's just get into it. Marc Jacobs has been showing off schedule for many seasons now. He used to do like a month before New York Fashion Week. Now he does, I think, about a week or 6 or 7 days before. I think he showed exactly 7 days before the official start of New York Fashion Week. I've been a Marc Jacobs fan for forever. I think he is one of the most inventive, creative designers this generation, and I just absolutely loved him. Lately, a lot of his shows, he always shows at the New York City Public Library. A lot of his shows lately have been focused on grandiose shapes and styles. This show was piggybacking off Spring 2025, which was the last show. And he kind of did this whole Polly Pocket. Like, imagine one of those, like in that movie where it's like, I think like Legally Blonde, where it's like the computer and you kind of pick the outfits on the model is very Brat style. So he kind of piggybacked off this idea once again. It's this kind of like really classic shapes, like these button down jackets and these mini skirts that are like from the 1950s, but they've been kind of like splattered onto the wall. So they're thick, super grandiose and super kind of like brat stally, and it's just very 3D focused, I feel like, with his latest collections. I absolutely loved this collection. I love that Mark's creativity is really never ending. When you kind of look at his work, I feel like this collection was very reminiscent of fall 2012 with those huge kind of like hats that actually Philip Tracy did. So Philip Tracy still does all the hat wear that Marc Jacobs shows, but this collection really reminded me of fall 2012, and it was kind of the same shapes, kind of the same aesthetic. I think he's one of the few really creative geniuses in New York, and there's very far and few in between, if I'm being honest, of the really great designers in New York. You know, I feel like I would even put him up there with like the likes of like Tom Brown and Tom Ford and all those designers in New York. One thing I did notice, I don't know if you guys know about the kind of business strategy of Marc Jacobs. He did have quite a big number of investment from LVMH, which is why he has recently opened so many stores. He even has a store in my city. All these stores are just for the boutiques of the handbags. So you guys know the Marc Jacobs bag. I mean, you see that everywhere. I feel like I see a Marc Jacobs bag literally every single day. It's really popular with students, usually popular with people who work in the office, really popular with moms. You know, you see it everywhere. But then he has this main line, which is Marc Jacobs collection, which I don't know if you guys knew, but it is only produced and sold in the world at Bergdorf's in New York, which I find kind of sad, actually. I feel like the clothing in the Marc Jacobs collection, like the runway, is extremely niche. Yes, I do feel like there genuinely is like kind of that client for it. Like it's almost reminiscent to that like old Comme des Garçons client that I feel like likes this kind of 3D vibe that you would just wear. You know, one of like I even go on the website at the Marc Jacobs and there's this lovely cardigan. I love it. It's like kind of 3D and it's all these pieces stitched together. I feel like a calm client or like a Ray Kawakubo fanatic would wear that with like blue jeans, you know, and like loafers. Like it really just all depends on how you style it. And I do wish that, you know, you see the show and everyone goes in the samples from the previous season. So you guys have obviously cut the pattern for these pieces. And I do wish maybe it's Marc Jacobs not wanting to do it, or he kind of just sees this as like a project a creative project where he can just be himself like once or twice every single year with these mini collections, and then he doesn't feel the need to produce it. But you see all the guests and they're wearing the samples, so I mean, I kind of wish that he would just produce more of it, or maybe be at other doors, maybe just be at his Madison Avenue boutique. But I love it. I think it's fantastic. I look forward every season when it comes around that Marc Jacobs is just going to show something. I just his creativity is just boundless, and he's one of my favorite designers. So kudos. I love this collection, and I really hope that one day I can like witness one of those collections in person, because they're just incredible to me. Let's move on to Kate. Okay, so I think if I'm being honest, it has to be the last time I talk about Kate, because the damn woman's about to send me a cease and desist at this point. Every time I talk about it, I'm like, I like shit on it. Here's the problem I have with Kate. Okay, with this collection, I was researching, I was like looking at all the show notes. What's her name? It's like Danielle Bernstein, or yeah, I think Danielle Bernstein. Correct me if I'm wrong, but she was like, I was inspired by David Lynch, and it's this really dramatic venue in New York, and it's huge, and it's like low lighting, and I feel like I have to squint to see the clothing. My dear, David Lynch would not be wearing any of these pieces. Mind you, I haven't like watched any David Lynch media. I tried to watch like the first 20 minutes of Twin Peaks, and I was like, I don't get it. So I like turned off. But then David Lynch is not going to be wearing Kate. Okay, Khaite. Like, we're not doing that. You guys, I feel like my issue with Kate is, I wrote it here, is that she insists on intelligence of these pieces of which you do not possess. This brand was born out of like, it was a basics brand, right? I don't know if you guys know the lore, but there's this used to be called this store in New York called The Apartment, and the in-house brand was Kate. So like if you go to like what's like an in-house brand? Like, I don't know. Like, it's a very niche way of doing business actually. And it was just these jeans and these sweaters, and like it's basically like the American Totem. But then it's like now I feel like we're like just like pushing into it. Like it's like so much stuff on the runway. It's confusing. A lot of it really doesn't work. Like I really did not like this like oversized hand stitched sweater set situation that's happening on the runway. I really didn't like it. There's some really uncomfortable, awkward fitting dresses as well. It's like, why are we like, I feel like we're like kind of like trying to make up for something. Like when you go to the stores and we go to like the department stores at Nordstrom's or Saks, Kate is really just like jeans and like a nice jacket. So I don't know why we're insisting on just trying to make a show and like a fantasy of a brand that I don't think necessarily needs that. I don't know. Lawsuits coming in my email tomorrow morning at this point, because like I think I just gotta let it go. Like me, I feel like there's just like it's like Phoebe Philo made it 7 years ago. The Row copied it 4 years ago. Totem copied it 2 years ago, and then Kate just copied it now. You know, it always just feels like it's like a copy of something, and there's nothing original. And it's like, why do we even bother doing the copy when in the stores it's just going to be like the jeans that like all the girls wear? You know, I don't know. Last time I'm talking about Kate until they do a collection that I like, because at this point, like I have to like Google cheap lawyers for representation, because every time I talk about her, it's like not good. Okay, moving on. That was my negative. That was my negative like point in this video. Okay, now we're gonna move on to positive. Ooh, Calvin Klein collection. Okay, the reason there's not that many shows in this video is because I feel like I have like a lot of in-depth opinions to talk about like some of the most notable shows, and one of those shows would be Calvin Klein. So Calvin Klein is rebooting under new designer Veronica Leoni. Veronica has an extensive CV and a resume. She worked at Celine under Phoebe Philo. She worked at The Row, and she also worked at Jill Sander. So I know she's getting good checks in the mail from all the residuals. This woman has been through it. She's been doing her thing. And it's funny, I feel like now in fashion, we're really like, we're past the celebrity designer, you know, like Eddie Simon at Celine, and we're really looking towards like, you know, Matthew Blazy, who was behind the scenes for so long. Now he's getting his moment. So this story, and like Louis Trotter, she was behind the scenes at so many brands, at Carvin, at Joseph, and now she's getting her moment in the limelight at like Bottega. I have to say, I really like this kind of new vibe that we're going for, like these kind of like small indie designers that like have kind of cut their teeth at so many brands. So Veronica, she's been doing the damn thing for forever. She's now been tasked with restarting Calvin Klein collection. So Calvin Klein collection needs to be by Francisco something. I don't know, I forgot, but it was really good. And then it went to Ralph Simmons. I liked it. Nobody bought it. And then they just kind of shut down the label for a little bit, but now they're bringing it back. But I was watching videos and I even watched Tamara's vlog of her going to the show. And it was a very, very A-list show, you guys. There were like important people. There were a lot of celebrities, Cooper Koch, Calvin Klein himself went. I didn't even know Calvin Klein was still alive. So that was like a surprise. I was like, oh, you're still alive. Perfect. I'm sure he's like sitting on the meetings or something. But it was a very, very A-list show. A lot of important people were there. Kendall Jenner walked. It was giving like people, I feel like people knew the severity of the situation. So what we got was a lot of, if I'm being honest, a lot of the Roe and Jill Sander nachos. Like she was definitely reheating a lot of her old patterns. I don't know if she like stole them from the offices. She like I don't know, put like her eye in like the vault and like they like it like unlocked it and she was able to take the patterns. But a lot of it did look exactly like Phoebe Philo and Jill Sander, which I'm actually not mad at. In this era of fashion where a lot of designers are actually scared to kind of do anything new. For example, sorry, I don't mean to call you out, but like Altuzara, his collection that he showed now looked exactly like Jill Sander. And Altuzara is not that brand. Like Altuzara is very kind of bohemian and it's for like a mature client. So like in this era of designers just copying the same four brands, Phoebe Philo, The Row, and Jill Sander, in the terms of the minimalist luxury space, I actually think that this was like a good iteration if the prices reflect lower than what those brands that she's copying are. Because we don't need another The Row. We have The Row. We don't need another Jill Sander. Jill Sander is very expensive. If you look on the Jill Sander website, everything is way, 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 way too expensive. Jill Sander is positioned as a top tier luxury brand for the intelligent woman. This works if everything is like a cute like $1,500. Like these beautiful coats that she's showing, these need to be like $13.95. Because if you're gonna do the same thing, if you're gonna reheat the nachos and they're gonna be the exact same price, why wouldn't I just go to the Row? Because the tea is, I'd rather have the Row label on my back than Calvin Klein collection. So while I do get that she was kind of copying a little bit, I do understand the point of it. You know, it's for an American market. It was a little bit dumbed down in the way that it wasn't too complex, but it felt smart and intelligent enough that like the luxury client would be like, oh my god, this is so chic. This is so the row coded. I'm gonna buy into it because the sweaters are $8.95 versus like a cashmere sweater from the row is $21.95. You know what I mean? Like if this is what we're gonna try and do with the business mogul, business model. I actually do agree with it and I'm actually here for it and I think it could work because there were a lot of great shapes. There were a lot of great styles. The styling was great. I was reading a lot of like people's opinions on it. It didn't photograph well, which I actually have to agree. A lot of it does look a little bit bland. But when I was watching the video and like people's TikToks, the clothing looks really great. It looks really well draped. It looks really like luxurious, which I really like. And I feel like Calvin Klein was kind of the, in terms of the American market, the OG sexual, not sexual, ew, that's so gross. The OG, like sexy, kind of young minimalist brand. And now, like, with this iteration, it's like the woman has grown up a little bit and maybe she's 28, 29, and she wants to look chic, but it still had that sensuality to it. So I really like that, you guys. Like, I know a lot of people were being like, it just looks the same as everything else. I mean, in terms of its competition, do I feel like Totem kind of looks like office wear a lot of the time? Yes. Is Kate a mess? Sorry, that's so mean. Is Kate like too busy doing David Lynch movies to like figure it out? Yes. I feel like it's unique enough, but it still has grasp on the minimalist luxury client enough that it will be successful. And I will say the men's wasn't anything that great. Like it was great gowns, beautiful gowns. Like I'd wear it, sure. Like if I have the money, I'll buy a Calvin Klein collection. It just looks like the row. The men's wasn't really anything great. I do wish the bags were a little bit better. I wasn't impressed with the bags. Like the what's the perfume like Million or something like that. They made the perfume box into a bag that's like so unoriginal. Like every other brand has done that. Like that Graceling nachos, like they're right there. Wasn't impressed with the bags. Shoes were okay, but for me, the biggest and best part were the clothing and it was fun to see something like that riveting and that kind of like an A-list event coming back to New York, because we don't get that anymore. Like we get these kind of like small indie designers like Luar, which I love. Like I love Luar. I love what he stands for. But I was missing that A-list event, you know? And I feel like we got that with this collection. I thought it was pretty good. I'm excited to see what the future is. I think we all need to just hold on tight because it is her first collection. She knows what she's doing clearly. So I was here for it. And the last show that I'm going to talk about is Sandy Liang. So I saw on social media that there was a lot, especially on high fashion Twitter, there was a lot of discourse on the Sandy Liang collection. You know, I have been a big fan of Sandy Liang for forever. I feel like her eclectic taste of how like a 27-year-old woman in New York dresses is actually really creative. And I feel like she's one of the few brands from New York that is able to build a concise world of Sandy Liang. You know, a lot of these brands just do product. And, you know, you think of World of Dior, World of Gucci. I mean, that might be a stretch, but World of Sandy Liang, like you know who the Sandy Liang girl is, and I really love it. I think her accessories are amazing. This collection was definitely on the other side of kitsch. Like she kind of took it to the extreme, and yes, a lot of it was kind of had the Miu Miu styling. You know, it was like those kind of like A-line skirts with the Mary Janes and like the fleece. That's so Miu Miu. I feel like at this point, Miu Miu kind of has the entire industry like in a chokehold, and it's funny because Miu Miu is always the last show of Fashion Month, and she just basically Mucha dictates what everyone's gonna copy next season. I just find it really. A lot of people were criticizing this, but I feel like I don't know if you guys remember, but Sandy Liang was kind of built off those fleece jackets. I don't know, it's giving very Nordstrom customer. Nordstrom always had these Sandy Liang fleece jackets; those were super popular, and yes, the styling is a little bit off kilter. Yes, it's like a little bit. It takes a lot to digest. You know, it's these bright neon colors and like I love these dresses that she did where it was like the dress and then she cut mini pieces of the dress and like stitched them on. It was just like picture like a toddler kind of pinning the tail on the donkey on these dresses. I loved it. I thought it was so creative. She added little trinkets here and there on the skirts and on dresses. But when you kind of take it all apart, and I'm sure you look at the store and you look at the racks, it's actually all really, really wearable and it's really great. It's great product. It's well priced. You know, you'll get a dress for like $1,200. You'll get a blouse for like $795. It's a really good starter price. And I don't think Sandy's trying to like reinvent the wheel here. I feel like when designers get big, people kind of, or like critics kind of expect them to kind of like reinvent something, but I don't really think that's what Sandy's trying to do. I think she knows her world. I think she lives in this cutesy, ultra girly, feminine world, and it's really cute. I love it. And I think once you take the styling apart and maybe you'll wear one of the blouses with a nice pair of cropped denim from Kate and like ballet flats. Like it's really chic. It really just all depends on how you wear it. And I think sometimes we just put a lot of pressure on these designers, and I think she's doing enough. I think clearly her business is succeeding. She has a ton of customers. She has her own store. She's on the right track, and I think like you either get it or you don't with her. And I do appreciate that like every season she comes to the forefront with her own aesthetic for the most part. I mean, you do see kind of influences from other brands from other seasons, but for the most part, it's very, very Sandy Liang. Her DNA is injected in every single look, which I really liked. And yeah, I really liked it, you guys. I know a lot of people said that they don't, and they're kind of tired, and they see a difference between Sandy Liang and 2 years ago. Even I don't really see it. I just think it's I think she has more confidence in her collections now, I would like to say. And I think she has a foot on the pulse of like what she wants Sandy Liang to be, which I think it's great. And you kind of want that for like a young designer like her. And for a business that really has only been here for like 5 to 7 years. Honorable mentions. I liked Tom Brown. I liked Luar. I loved Luar. He is just I was looking at the Luar website yesterday actually, and like he has a lot of great accessories. The bags, the shoes, he's doing these like little brogues with the L sign on it. I think that's it really. It's I'm if you watch the other New York shows, videos that I do, I'm never a huge fan of New York, especially with London. It's not my forte, but I'm sure as we get onto the other cities, I'll have more to talk about. But please do let me know what you thought of these shows. Let me know in the comments down below what was your favorite show or what was your least favorite show of New York Fashion Week. Thank you so much for tuning in every single week. I really appreciate you guys, and obviously I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.